MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
I'm Jonathan Amberian in Great Falls, where advocates are turning in thousands of signatures in hopes of advancing two ballot measures that would reshape the way Montana conducts its elections.
I'm Megan Thompson here outside of Anaconda at Yankee Flats, where a bear was caught rummaging through this garbage can the other night. Coming right up, I'll give you some tips on how you can keep your home safe from these kinds of encounters.
The President and the Pope. I'm Jared Hill with a focus on technology as these two meet today at the G7 Summit of World Leaders.
New research shows migraine headaches may be growing more intense for many patients. I'm Bradley Blackburn with how doctors say new treatments can help.
Good morning and happy Friday. Happy birthday to my daughter, too, by the way.
Is this her
Today's
birthday?
Marina's birthday. It's Flag Day as well.
Yeah, that's great.
It's Flag Day.
Which reminds me, I got to take down my Jayhawk flag and put up my American
There you go.
flag.
Again, thanks for letting me come back this morning.
No, thanks for actually coming back. You've been working the long shifts
yeah,
here.
well, yeah, no, we do what we have to do.
That's exactly right. As
You
we
did
know.
all morning long what you had to do with
Yeah,
very little information.
We're having some technical difficulties, internet issues. Nobody ever has to deal with that. We're human too, and our computers still mess with us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, looking at temperatures, it's into the 50s right now. I want to show you some showers. This wasn't showing up on the models and still really isn't. There's just this weak wave of energy moving through. We've had a little bit of lightning, a couple of areas where there's some thunder, but most of this shower activity is on the lighter side. Look out this morning, roadways are dry in the Bozeman area. Temperatures expected to be near the 80-degree mark. Just a touch more wind today. I think the real windy conditions expected for tomorrow, and then we're going to experience a nice cool down here soon enough. I'm going to talk more about the timing and impacts in just a few minutes.
I appreciate you keeping those showers away from my camping spot, by the way.
You
More
should
to follow
close the
on that.
door there.
Yeah, more to follow. 6:03, our top story this half hour. Abortion has remained legal in Montana since the U.S. Supreme Court's Dobbs decision. Montana Supreme Court has continued to uphold its 1999 Armstrong decision, which says the state's constitution's right to privacy protected access to abortion before a fetus is viable. Republicans in the Montana legislature have passed a number of bills tightening abortion restrictions in the last two sessions, but most have been challenged in court and blocked by judges who cited Armstrong. Currently, advocates are collecting signatures trying to get an initiative onto the November ballot that would specifically add abortion rights to the Montana Constitution. Now, abortion isn't the only issue that may appear on Montana's ballot this year, as supporters of a pair of ballot initiatives that would reshape the state's election system believe they'll have more than enough signatures to qualify. MTN senior political reporter Jonathan Amberian has a closer look at where they stand.
Proposed voter initiatives that want to get on the ballot this year have until June 21st, a week from Friday, to turn in tens of thousands of signatures needed to qualify. This week, supporters of constitutional initiatives 126 and 127 began turning in their signatures to election officials across the state.
This is up to the voters, and it should be up to the voters.
Montanans for Election Reform, the committee backing the measures, says they've collected a total of more than 200,000 signatures between the two. To get on the ballot, each initiative needs more than 60,000 signatures from registered voters around the state, plus at least 600 in 40 different legislative districts. CI 126 would create a top 4 primary in Montana. All candidates from all parties would appear on a single primary ballot, and the 4 with the most votes, regardless of party, would go on to the November general election. CI 127 would require the general election winner to receive at least 50% of the vote, and task the legislature with deciding how to implement that. Supporters say the changes would let a broader section of voters decide who represents them.
Whether it's rural or urban, it leads to a lot of polarization because so few people vote in the primary, and if it's a highly contested primary, even fewer people are actually electing.
Thursday in Great Falls, supporters brought in around 15,000 signatures from Cascade County voters. Those in attendance included Mary Sexton, a committee board member and former Teton County Commissioner, and Randy Gray, former mayor of Great Falls.
I'm very optimistic. Plus, Montanans are they tend to have common sense. And our hope is that this will appeal to their common sense.
After June 21st, county election officials will have 4 weeks to check the signatures and certify whether they're valid. The Secretary of State will then determine whether the measures qualify for the ballot. In Great Falls, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Thank you, Jonathan. And other local headlines. Who rummaged through the garbage cans in Anaconda? Well, it turns out it was a bear, and a woman who lives there posted photos to prove it. Our Megan Thompson learned what you can do to protect yourself and your garbage.
Well, an Anaconda woman got a huge surprise when she looked out her window and saw a giant black bear getting into this garbage can outside her house located on Yankee Flats, just outside of Anaconda.
I looked out the window and the bear was just laying out there snacking away. I'm still like a little shocked and startled because I knew that they were going to be out here and around me, but I didn't know like that close.
Kayla Hicks says this isn't the first time a bear has rummaged through her garbage, but it's the first time she has seen it do so, and that's why she called Fish, Wildlife, and Parks for help.
If a bear is coming into some type of food source at your house, it's good to secure that attractant now because bears have a really good memory, and so they'll remember, where they got food frequently or when they got food. So it is good to try to think about securing that attractant so that it doesn't become a reoccurring problem.
Brad says issues with bears are usually preventable because they let their noses guide them to the food sources like garbage, bird feeders, and barbecue grills. Bears are also drawn to chickens because their scattered feed and the noise that they make. Kayla now keeps her trash can locked up in a shed until collection day.
I mean, I may not be from here, but I like the wildlife and everything, so I want to learn more on really how to handle the situation.
In Anaconda, Megan Thompson, MTN News.
On the national scene today, the nation's second Catholic president set to meet with Pope Francis for the second time during his presidency as the pontiff visits the G7 summit. Yesterday brought a major new deal for Ukraine's security and President Biden's first public comments on his son's recent conviction on gun charges. CBS's Jared Hill has more on all these developments.
On day 2 of the G7 summit in Italy, President Joe Biden is set to meet one-on-one with Pope Francis. Mr. Biden, a devout Catholic, also met with the pontiff back in 2021. The Pope's visit to the G7 is a first, with plans to discuss the implications of artificial intelligence. Yesterday, the leaders of 7 of the world's largest economies were joined by Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky as they agreed to give his country a $50 billion loan to be paid for with interest from frozen Russian assets.
Today is a truly historic day.
President Biden and Zelensky also signed a new security deal, committing U.S. military aid and training to Ukraine for the next 10 years. The U.S. is also imposing new sanctions on foreign banks that do business with Russia, and President Biden announced that he's received commitments from 5 countries to send batteries of Patriot missiles to Ukraine soon as well.
We'll be with Ukraine until they prevail in this war.
At a news conference, the president also made his first on-camera comments about his son Hunter's recent conviction for lying on a federal form about his drug use when he bought a gun back in 2018.
I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
President Biden also indicated that he would not commute his son's sentence, which has not yet been issued by the judge. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Jared also tells us President Biden was also asked about efforts to get a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. He told reporters that he hasn't lost hope, but, quote, it's going to be tough, end quote. Well, June is Migraine Awareness Month, and new research suggests over the past 20 years the debilitating condition and its impacts are getting worse for patients. But as CBS's Bradley Blackburn explains, new treatments are also offering new hope.
Mimi Frisch recently graduated medical school and became a doctor.
And they really started getting bad when I was in high school.
But since she was a child, she struggled with her own health challenges.
I often feel like it's really just it's like squeezing my brain.
It took multiple doctors to get the correct diagnosis, migraine headaches that can at times be debilitating.
There have been times when I'm out with friends and I get such a bad headache or migraine that I have to leave and go home and sit in a dark room by myself.
Some 40 million Americans live with migraines, one of the leading causes of disability. Mount Sinai headache specialist Dr. Fred Cohen says data shows by some measures they're getting worse for sufferers.
The impact and burden of migraine as well as the headache frequency has been going up.
His study found since 2004, scores on the Migraine Disability Assessment Scale have gone from 22% to 42%. The answers why aren't clear.
Go to your left, go to your right.
But for patients like Frisch, newer migraine medications are providing relief.
It's remarkable how much it's changed my life. I remember the first month that I went where I had 4 weeks without a headache, and that was like unbelievable to me.
Dr. Cohen says if migraines last longer than a few hours or are severe, see a doctor.
The vast majority of migraine patients aren't getting adequate treatment. And a lot of it is that, unfortunately, they don't know, and there's a lot of tools.
The pain is real, and so is the promise of treatment. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
By the way, migraines affect more women than men, but all patients have seen an increase in frequency and impact. Matt, heads up on this one. I know you do a lot of the cooking around your house. We have some bad news for lovers of olive oil. Main region that produces the golden liquid are under threat from climate change. CBS's Ian Lee picks up that story.
This parched plot of land produces olives. At least it should, but row after row of trees are failing to grow the green fruit.
Well, the main reason is the climate change.
Rafael Barao turns his olives into oil, but years of drought and extreme heat have cultivated a failed crop. Many flowers turn brown and die before olives have a chance to grow, frustrating farmers.
The lack of water and then bad weather during the blossom and in general, I mean, heat waves. The conditions and climatic conditions are not good.
Barao's struggle is also being felt at the supermarket. Since 2020, the price of olive oil has more than tripled, while demand surges around the world.
Very, very expensive. It's too expensive.
There is some hope. Heavy rains hit Spain in March, but it'll take a lot more to keep this region green and golden olive oil flowing. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Now, Ian tells us if the wet weather continues in Spain, growers are hopeful that prices could drop in November after the harvest. Not before.
Not always a great thing, but we can deal with it.
I've got some fun video to share with you. We spend lots of time talking about the importance of our emergency services providers, law enforcement, medical personnel.
Yep.
It isn't always just for us. This is members of the Flagler County Sheriff's Office in Florida. Got a report of a stuck sea turtle.
Oh,
and they do what they do. They come to the rescue no matter who you are or how hard your shell is. That's what they do. So.
Had a blowout. Time to get back to the water.
That's it. An important job nonetheless in that. But this one's stuck under a rock, and there you can see that they were able to dislodge.
Get it, move it, and there we go.
Terrapin and off into the water it goes.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that awesome?
I wonder how old that guy is.
That's a great question. It's big enough, I would say, old.
Oh, very, yeah.
Old, and will now be able to get a little older thanks to our emergency services providers.
EOC or the
yeah, that's right. Oh,
Crush.
Whoa, Crush. That's right. Yeah. All right. Thanks for that flashback. Why don't we take a quick break here on Montana This Morning? When we come back, tackling Montana's mental health crisis. When we come back, we take a look at efforts underway in rural Montana to use the latest technology to reach Montana's younger population. Stick around. Much more Montana This Morning right after this.